So I'd done some workshops and I was looking for something to measure my progress against, something that wasn't too expensive and that wouldn't take months and months to kind of complete. And I found the certificate in calligraphy from the Calligraphy Lettering Arts Society. And that really seemed to fit the bill for me.
Yeah. I wanted to do something to show that I'd achieved a certain level in calligraphy. I've been studying it for a few years.
I've submitted 5 scripts to CLAS for certificate assessment. Why have I done this? Firstly, I wanted a goal to aim at, and secondly, I wanted to know from a completely objective source how well I was meeting the accepted rules.
It was a really worthwhile exercise because it made me focus on the script that I was learning, the shapes of the letters, and it definitely improved my work.
I was encouraged to submit work for the CLAS certificate by my tutor. I enjoy being assessed, as I feel that I can't know how far I've come and consequently how far I've still got to go, unless I have some way to measure my work. So I readily agreed to this.
The feedback is very encouraging and very useful in providing guidance for further improvement.
Although it's a little bit scary submitting your work for adjudication, I did get a certificate at the end of it and some very helpful feedback. It's always good to get feedback from someone other than your tutor.
The positive comments from the assessor suggested I might consider the diploma. So, ever up for a challenge, that's what I did next.
So for me, it was worthwhile and I'm really pleased that I did it.
The reason that I did this certificate was just to get a yardstick, really, so that I could send the 3 pieces of work off to somebody who didn't know me, who wasn't my tutor, who, you know, from my point of view, didn't have any sort of reason to be nice to me. They could say what they wanted. And I get an independent view on what I was writing and kind of how my progress was going, really. But it wasn't that stressful. It was 3 pieces of work, so it was manageable. It was doable, but it did still give me that yardstick and that sort of first step onto kind of getting a certificate in calligraphy. Oh my God, it's a certificate in calligraphy. So yeah, Liz, I know that you take students through the certificate itself.
Yes, lots of my students submit for the certificate. So what we normally do is we'll allocate a term to a particular script, whether that be Unseal, Foundational, Italic or whatever. And doing the certificate means that we focus in and do it in a lot of detail. Real sense of achievement then when they get them back 6 or 8 weeks later. And a lot of students enjoy it so much they'll then go on and work towards a certificate in another script in a future term or a future year. And Gwyneth, you've had students in your classes at all different stages, haven't you?
Yes. What's good about the certificate, it's open to anyone at any level. So someone who's just learnt their first script can submit, and as can someone with much more experience. And you can submit entries as many times as you like. And as long as you follow the entry rules properly, it's not a pass or fail exam. It's just designed to give you a clear idea of the level that you're working at. And it gives you a mark to let you know, as well as feedback and comment. So as an assessor, Josie, what is it you receive from people?
Yeah, I get a stack of entries from the administrator. Each entry is just numbered, not named, so it's anonymous. And there are 3 sheets of paper for each entry. They're A3 size. The first one has just the alphabet of the chosen script in a large nib. The second sheet is 8 lines of continuous writing in a large nib. And the third is 8 lines of continuous writing in a smaller nib. And all the details of the sizes are on the website and in the booklet.
So you've got a choice of which script you can submit, and there's a selection of 7 different calligraphic hands. Pen-written Roman capitals, foundational, angled pen unseal, formal italic minuscules, pen-written plain italic capitals, Gothic black letter, the minuscules, and classic copperplate.
And so once you've chosen the script that you want to work towards, the next thing is to find yourself a comfortable working space. It's great if you've got somewhere that you can leave set up so you don't have to keep tidying it up in between times. But a kitchen table would do fine as well. The most important thing is that you feel comfortable working there and have everything you need within easy reach. So you'll need a sloping drawing board. This could be perhaps propped up on the table. It could be resting in your lap against the table. There are a lot of different types of board, and there is information on the website about the different boards, whichever feels best for you. And then if you're right-handed, you'll need your ink, pens, and all your bits and pieces to your right-hand side, comfortably within reach. If you're left-handed, obviously the other way round. And yeah, off you go.
But obviously don't be too, don't think, oh my God, I've got to have, a space that's put over to calligraphy the whole time. As you can see from my working space, this is, just my back table and it's covered in junk. I put a board up and I get writing. Easy. You probably saw then, actually, my favourite ink at the moment, it's Sumi ink, which everybody's got their own favourite, as I'm sure you guys. Any favourites?
Yeah, mine is a Pelican 4001. It's a lovely dense black ink, but quite fast flowing, which suits me.
I normally use Chinese ink. It's got a nice little pouring spout here, so I will tip some of this into one of those little jars that you maybe get when you've been out for a cream tea or a hotel breakfast. Dilute it half and half with ink and water. Not too much, because it'll actually go off after a few weeks, and so you don't want to waste your ink, so just a little bit in the jar. Again, this is a nice dense black ink which flows well, and I do recommend it.
I like to use black gouache instead of ink, which you dilute down and use in a nib. It gives you nice crisp letters. Fountain pen inks, as Josie said, they flow quite nicely. But sometimes inks can bleed or feather out on some papers. So I like to use smooth cartridge paper from a manufacturer like De La Rowney or Winsor & Newton.
Cartridge paper is also good for making it your work look really good. So obviously if you want to make it look the best when you submit it, then put it on some decent paper.
Some pads have little clues on the covers. They have either a little pen nib or an ink bottle to show they're okay for ink, but some don't. So the Fabriano Academia, which is a great paper, or Canson Croquis, they don't, but they're good.
So you're asked to submit 8 lines of continuous text laid out on a piece of A3 paper. It's best to go for continuous text, in other words, prose, rather than poetry. So as you can see from this example here, the poetry doesn't fill the page, and therefore it's not giving you such a pleasing result as if you go for 4 or 8 lines of text. But don't worry if the 8 lines just finish mid-sentence without a full stop. That doesn't matter at all. You're not being judged on that, you're just being judged on the calligraphy.
So the criteria guidelines, they're available on the website, on the CLAS website. And as you were saying, Liz, you don't get judged on, if you spell something wrong, if there's no comma or the, grammar. It's what the letter form looks like.
Yes, and you wouldn't be judged either on whether you decided to do your piece landscape or portrait. That would be entirely your own judgment. So in fact, people do often ask, should I do my piece landscape or portrait? As long as it's on A3 paper, you can make your own decision about that. You may find that the script you're using and the text you're using just lends itself to one or the other as being a better option, and you don't even have to do all 3 the same. So you'll see from these various examples that some people do their alphabets portrait and their pieces landscape the other way around, or entirely your call.
So the things that you actually are judged on are going to be the letter form itself. So the weight, the X height, if you've ruled up correctly, if the O looks like the O in the exemplar that you're using. So you need to just really look at that list of criteria that you can get, and just keep popping back to it. You know, just do a couple of lines, keep looking back, do a couple of lines, keep looking back. As you said, Liz, you know, don't stress yourself out about colour, about, you know, just choose a piece of writing and just, you know, just write that through, and just go back to the criteria, because you know what you're going to get assessed on.
You had some handy tip, didn't you, for students, Liz?
Yes, well, what I say to my students is that we're all only human, and one of the most challenging things about producing your certificate is that feeling of stage fright. You've done loads of practice, it's all going well, and then you sit down, you do the real thing, and you think, I've got to make this perfect, and then you tense up and it starts to go wrong. So what I say to people to avoid that is, if you have the time, rule up for 3 versions all the same and do 3. Takes a bit more time, but it takes the stress out of it, and then you can have a look at the 3 maybe the day after you've done them and send off the one that you think you're the most happy with.
So Anne-Marie, what did you receive back when you did your certificate?
My 3 pieces that I'd done myself, so I got those guys back. I got a lovely certificate which was all beautifully written out, which can go on the wall, and I got my mark to give me my yardstick that I was after in terms of where I'd sit and what my skill level was at that time. But I think the best thing that I found was the post-it notes that were covering my work, because they gave me little tips about how to improve. You know, maybe if you thought about doing it this way, if you thought about doing it that way. You also get an assessment form that gives you a little bit more of a narrative about the thoughts of the assessor and what they liked about your work and what they thought could do with a little bit of improvement. So sort of taken together, it just gives you that next kind of the bounce to go on the next step, which I found really, really helpful. You know, it's another set of eyes looking at your work. It's somebody else to kind of go to sort of give you that little helpful push. So yeah, I found it, the package itself, I found it incredibly useful, and it's something that I still refer to every now and then if I'm doing that particular hand.
And remember, you can always have another go at the certificate later on if you want to improve your mark. Some students like to do the certificate in one script and then move on and do another script, or maybe enjoy other aspects of calligraphy. But other students prefer to perfect one script. And I'm thinking of a student I had who entered for the certificate in one script, got a very good mark of 64%, but he wanted to perfect that script because he enjoyed writing it so much that he carried on working towards it, had another go the following year, and improved his mark the next time round to 88%. So it's entirely up to you whether to stay with one or move on to other things.
If you're going to send in work for assessment, work is assessed twice a year, and the 2 submission deadlines are the 30th of April and the 30th of November. These dates are on the website, and they're also in the Certificate of Calligraphy leaflet. You need to submit your 3 sheets of lettering without your name on them by post. The envelope you send them in has got to be A3 sized, and it needs to be padded or stiffened to protect your work. And also the same envelope is going to be used to return your work to you. Along with your work, you need to include the completed entry form. You also need to include payment advice to tell the administrator how you've paid the entry fee, a self-addressed label that's large enough to completely cover the class administrator's address on the envelope. And if you want acknowledgement of receipt of your work, you either include a self-addressed stamped postcard or your email address. If you're worried about your work going astray, you can keep photocopies of it, but it should be okay. And the turnaround time is roughly 8 weeks after the deadline entry date. So Liz, you organise a session when your students get their work back, don't you?
That's right. Many terms I will have several students in a class who have all submitted the certificate at once. So it's great excitement when those then come back 8 weeks later. Everybody brings their work in along with their certificate, of course, and the feedback that they've had, those lovely little post-it notes which Anne-Marie mentioned earlier. And then they lay them all around the tables, and maybe somebody brings some biscuits in. We have a little celebration of the fantastic achievement. Everybody goes round and has a look at each other's. And it's really useful and interesting, even for those students who didn't submit a certificate this time round. And it's also great for me, after seeing how much work everybody put into it, to see the fantastic achievement of them all receiving their certificate.
CLAS offers a 2-session course for each of the scripts, and the course covers everything you need to know to enter, but in a live and interactive format. Students also get access to a recording for a limited period of time, and they can also make an arrangement with their tutor to get one-to-one tuition if they should so wish, but that's a private arrangement. In fact, CLAS are the only body currently offering such a wide range of achievement, recognition for that achievement across all sorts of levels. And you can go on to do diplomas at foundation, intermediate and advanced level, and there are certificates in skills in specific areas of interest, right through to fellowship. So that's the ladder of progress, and these certificates of calligraphy are the first rung. But there's loads on the website, isn't there, Anne-Marie?
Yes, yes. So you can find out all about the online classes that we've been discussing today, or there's more information about CLAS itself if you wanted to become a member, information about, you know, getting involved in your local calligraphy community if that's what you're after. It's kind of a really good resource that you can look at on your machine, but can give you contacts locally as well, you know, if you wanted to get some sort of, you know, face-to-face, even on Zoom. So yeah, good luck with the certificates, and hopefully we'll see you at the AGM.
Yay, good luck.
Good luck.